you can see the core thing here that I want to tap into is coming clean with ourselves about our illusions. And the metaphor that I'm using is addiction. That, like drugs, ease our suffering. Like people turn to alcohol or drugs to relieve their feelings of stress or worthlessness or whatever it is, our ego strategy is something that we're addicted to as a way of relieving our inner suffering. And that is an illusion. We all know that substances only cause self-destruction and terrible consequences for others, and that addiction is incredibly harmful. And in the same way, our fixations are a fake cure for our suffering. So we've been led to believe by, our blind spots that our fixation is going to solve our suffering and our childhood wound and our longings. But in fact, all it does is get us into more trouble. So what we need to do is to come clean with ourselves about those illusions, to come clean with ourselves about the fact that we are addicted, and then to go on a journey, not to punish ourselves, but to build our capacity to be with the suffering as we started with, so that we don't need the drugs anymore. So when we've developed the solid, stable inner home, where we can rest, where we can feel at ease, then we're much less likely to go looking after our fix. And fixation and fix is like a nice way of remembering it. We're just that much less likely to chase the external thing that we think is going to make us happy. So that's what the session tonight is all about. So in Chris Heuertz's book, he brings in these two Christian philosophers who are just wonderful. Henry Nouwen and Thomas Keating. You might have, Thomas Keating, very famous. Henry Nouwen's a bit less well known, but I'm sure some of you know about him if you've got a Christian background. And he speaks about 3 big lies, and Keating speaks about 3 programs for happiness. So if you look at these 3 lies, I am what I have, I am what I do, and I am what other people say about me. That's what Henry Nouwen says. We kind of fall into the illusion of believing these lies. And Keating says that we've got these 3 basic formulae almost. It's like, this is my happiness recipe. So we've got a happiness recipe concerned with getting as much security as we can and surviving by having security. Our other happiness strategy is to have power and control of some form. And our other one is to get the affection and esteem of others. And these match, as you can see. So the security and survival program matches with I am what I have. Power and control program matches with I am what I do. And the affection and esteem one matches with I am what other people say about me. So Chris Heuertz quite brilliantly finds these things, links them together, and then links them with the Enneagram. So we're going to go into that. So this is a photo of one of the pages from his book. And here you can see how he links them with the centers. So he says for the gut center types, 8, 9, and 1, it's all about power and control in the world. So that's about autonomy, my relationship with reality, with the world, and how I think about that world. And in that case, it's I am what I do. If you look at the heart center, if you look at Nouwen's lies, he links that one here. I am what others think or say about me, and I'm looking for affection and esteem. So that's what all the heart center types are busy with. They're busy with manufacturing an identity that other people are going to like and think is special or worthwhile or valuable. And in the head center, I am what I have, looking for that security that the head center is looking for, that basic unsafety that the head types are looking to compensate for. So either, say, 5, grasping at knowing and mastery and competence, the 6, trying to find security and guidance, and powerful people or institutions to give them the security, and the action center about either taking strong control of themselves as a 1, 8 dominating, and 9 just kind of hiding as a way of actually exercising autonomy. And part of that is a resistance strategy. So 9 is actually resisting reality. And that's quite a helpful way of thinking about I am what I do, is I retain my autonomy and independence and power by resisting. And it's not very a common way of thinking about 9, but I find it quite helpful. There's also that stubbornness that you feel in the 9 strategy. It's a resistance to reality. It's a resistance to being influenced. So just to actually picture it on the Enneagram itself. So I just invite you to reflect for a minute here on how your ego strategy is your recipe for happiness, your program for happiness, and how it's a lie in the same way as a drug is a lie. So you imagine that by controlling everything, you're going to get what you want, but you're not. Or you imagine that by having as much as you can, so the gluttony of 7, grasping, planning, thinking ahead, anticipating, fantasizing, that's the addiction of 7. So realizing that addiction is not going to solve the underlying problem of wanting to feel safe and fulfilled and settled. So just for a minute, think about your main type strategy and how that addiction has played out in your life. The compulsion and the addiction of just kind of like an addiction, being unable to stop yourself from running that program. And then think about any tiny breakthrough that you've had in terms of being able to be with the suffering that causes the impulse that makes you run for the drug. Any moment where you've managed not to do it. Any moment where your ability to be with yourself and your suffering has allowed you not to get that fix. To just say, I'm not going to get that fix. That's okay. Just for today, I can be with this without rushing for the fix. So those moments where you have managed to stay with yourself, those, if you would apply a kind of systems thinking complexity lens, we could call them positive disruptors that we can amplify. So it might have been just once that you managed to say no as a 2. It might have been for 5 minutes that you managed to, as a 4, cope with the fact that you weren't understood and that you didn't need to be understood. And that's fine. And it's just those 5 minutes. If you can remember experiencing that sense of, this is okay, then those are the moments that we want to amplify and build, because what you've done there is you've reclaimed some of the territory of your stable inner home. You've basically got a little island within of some stable territory that you can trust. And the more times that you're able to do that, just to bring presence, compassion, and I'm not talking about self-control where you're putting yourself in a vice. I'm talking about where you're able to be with the suffering and with the impulse and not do it because of being with it. So I want to maybe take a minute for anyone to share any of these moments of triumph, even if it was like a 2-second thing where I can do without my fix right now. I've got enough inner stability, or I've got enough inner ease to not do my fix. Anyone able to share a moment? Manya?
Yeah. Yeah, I had a very interesting conversation with a colleague earlier, friend, and I was telling her a story about something very intense that's happening for me at the moment. And she was saying, so I'm the 4 wanting to be understood, right? So she was saying, you know, be careful of labeling, because I was labeling the person that I'm in conflict with. And I really didn't feel understood. It was like, no. She's labeling me. And it was such a long story. Anyway, I actually had to get off the phone, and then I later wrote to her. She'd already written to me a little thing. I wrote a long screed. I managed to pull myself back, happy that I'd journaled to her. And I listened. I read what she had written about her, just mirroring back to me that she, you know, this thing about it seemed like I was labeling and name calling. And it was such an insight when I stopped trying to be understood. And I actually just heard what she was saying. And then processed that. It was a completely different space.
Wow. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that.
It's such a connection, yeah, with myself and with her.
Brilliant. So actually, that's lovely. So it's interesting to hear that. So in that moment of not needing to be understood, there's actually a deeper connection and more intimacy with somebody because your priority is not being understood.
Yeah, but Ingrid, also not going for the fix, you know, it was so hard.
It's so hard. I mean, that's the point of this exercise, is to...
Exactly, yeah.
That's why I say, where did you have a tiny little island of presence? Where did you have a tiny little hard-won moment of not running for the fix? And, you know, that's why I think the humility is so important, because this is a racket and we're running it for our whole life. And what Russ Hudson said in his book, so beautiful, he says something about, we learn to love being busted in our game as we dedicate ourselves to the truth of self-discovery. As we say, this is what I'm doing. I am trying to recover the true knowledge of what is consciousness. What am I? What is my relationship to the world? What is my relationship to others? That in that dedication, we commit to being disillusioned again and again and again, to commit to disillusion, to seeing through the illusion, to seeing through the lies, to seeing our fix, to seeing ourselves desperate to get our fix, and having compassion for ourselves in that moment. Like, oh my God, you know, all I want to do is grasp, and I want to lie, and I want to manipulate, and I want to, whatever it is. And usually it'll be related to our type. That's why the Enneagram is so helpful, because it describes these dynamics well. But it could be anything, you know, and we've all got a tri-type. So we're going to be doing a bunch of them, as well as our wings, as well as our lines. So we literally do the whole Enneagram's full range of defense mechanisms, fixes, survival strategies, armor, little subtle deceit, self-aggrandizement, exaggeration, whatever it is, we're doing it all the freaking time because we are trying to get the esteem. We're trying to be liked. We want to belong. We want to connect. We want to feel safe. We want to feel like we have some sense of freaking agency in the world and that our human dignity is going to be respected, which is, the gut center is about dignity and autonomy. So at the same time as being busted and being honest about the fact that these are lies, that we are going for the fake cure, we have deep, deep, deep compassion for the fact that it is the suffering that makes us want to do that. So, Gabor Mate's work around addiction, he says the addiction is not the problem, the pain is the problem. So he worked with thousands of addicts on the streets of Vancouver. And he found that not one of the women who were addicts had not been sexually abused as a child. And, he tries to bring this compassionate inquiry into the work around addiction. So we don't medicalize it, we don't pathologize it, we don't criminalize it. What we do is we understand that addiction is driven by suffering and pain. We are trying to alleviate pain. So I like to just take that entire thinking and install it in the Enneagram work to say the reason we're doing the fixation, the reason we need to, the reason we're grasping and trying and controlling and dominating is because it alleviates a very core wound and a core suffering. And when we work like that, we unlock a lot of self-mercy, a lot of self-compassion. And that's what heals us. That's what releases us. So we will only be released from the strategy when we've got an alternative. And the alternative is the stable inner home. Jill?
I can offer another example if that's good.
Yeah, please.
I actually, okay. For those of you who I haven't met, hello, and I'm identify as an Ennea 1, so I sit in the gut center. So Ingrid, I can't actually remember a time when I had my 4 seconds or whatever to try and not do the thing that I do. But what I have discovered is sometimes you have like allies that you didn't know about. Mm-hmm. Like my body in the last, probably 4 months has made me so tired and fatigued that I can't be doing my controlling, and I'm not ill. But I've been doing a lot of inner work, and my body has kept me from doing my usual fix, if I can say it that way. Yeah. And I find that's such a fascinating thing because it's like an ally that I've never really thought of as an ally, because I've always dominated my body and used it a little bit like a machine. Mm-hmm. And now I'm starting to realize that actually it's got its own wisdom. And it's almost telling me that it's here and that I need to pay attention, because it can make me sit. If I'm not going to listen, yeah, it will make me be still. And then, yeah, so that's been an amazing revelation.
Thank you for that. That's wonderful, because, in the Enneagram, there's shock points on the journey. So if you look at the journey around the Enneagram from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, 3 is one of the shock points. And that is when there's an intervention from the spiritual realm at the 9, the 3, and the 6, that mm-hmm. inner triangle. And what happens is, as we're going along, we get these shock points to enable us to grow. And the 3 shock point plunges us into the inner journey. So, you get sick, You go inwards, you realize that you were so busy with your image, and meantime, you're mortal and you could have died. You go into that existential void between 4 and 5. And we can't come to an understanding of the truth without going there. So shock points like illness, retrenchment, accidents, breakups, bereavements, all of those shock points are actually our biggest growth. And you would know that for sure. And you've got the opportunity now to listen to this exhaustion. And when we don't integrate the learning of the shock point, we'll just get more of them, Well, we'll get them anyway because, we're here to learn and grow. But, there's allies. I'm grateful for you thinking about it in that way, or helping us to think about it in that way, that, these parts of ourselves that are exhausted are actually doing us a big favor. And, from the IFS processes with, these parts that jump in, every part of us has got some kind of protective role. So this exhaustion is creating some space for you, it sounds like, to really reflect. And you said listen. And with the 1, there's this scrambling of the body and the feeling center, which is, I'm just going to go and I'm going to do it, and this is right, and I'm going to do that. So actually losing touch with the ability to listen. 1s can't listen. It's black and white thinking, and they've got the answer. And they've also got the answer about themselves. Like, I should be like this, I should be doing that, I should be doing this. So what I'm seeing happening when you describe the illness, that it's not illness, the exhaustion, that it's causing your mind to come online. Your thinking center is now online, and it's able to listen. It's able to appreciate ambiguity. You're not punishing yourself to get through the to-do list. Some space is opened up for your mind to do a new thing.
That's exactly right, Ingrid. Exactly right. That's exactly what's happening. And the irony is, I would never have got to this point if that my ally hadn't intervened. I would never have released the controlling and the doing and the action if my body hadn't said, we're not doing this. So
it usually takes something that disrupts our strategy. That people sometimes say to me, oh, you're wise, you're courageous. I'm like, you know why I'm wise, or why I look like I'm wise? Because of how I was in my 20s. The fact that I survived my adolescence and my early 20s is a freaking miracle, how reckless I was. So any wisdom that you see is very hard won. There are only so many times you can run into a wall before you end up being able to say to people, look, everyone, there's a wall. So, it's through our struggle with our addiction that we win the opposite. And this is a wonderful thing about the dynamics of the Enneagram. So if you struggle enough with fear and self-doubt every day as a 6, you are up against fear and self-doubt 24/7. You win the virtue. You win courage in that struggle. And that's what's so powerful about the virtues, is that, and why the type who's got the virtues has got them for real. Like 6s have got real courage. Why? Because they've had to win it, and they've had to practice it to do anything. So that's where some of this stuff comes from. So coming out of this, I can imagine, the quality of serenity that you're going to win from the fact that you can't do the 1 right now. And you're going to be wrestling with that frustration. The frustration 147 frustration triad. In that struggle with your own frustration and your inner critic berating you and telling you what a piece of shit you are for being exhausted, through that you're going to win serenity, and you're going to be able to model it for us. So that's it's just a beautiful dynamic. So let's look at, thanks for that, Jill. Thanks for sharing that example. It's very helpful. Very helpful. We've got allies, and our allies, I just read the best Enneagram book I ever read in my life, Cynthia Peugeot. It's called The Eye of the Heart, and I'm going to start it again. I finished it yesterday. I'm starting it again today or tomorrow. And she speaks about the spiritual support that we've got. And, you know, I like to be an atheist and a Muslim and a Christian and a Jew. I like to hold both. But with her, I felt such a profound sense of our spiritual support, and the way that exhaustion would be a gift. So yeah, I'm just feeling like very saturated with this beautiful stuff that she was teaching. So let's look at some of the types, and let's see how much time we've got. I'm obviously going to go over, because I always do, so I hope some of you can stay a bit longer if you want to. I want to definitely try and get through the 3 centers at least. But if you look at this, what I've done here is I've tried to show the wound and the fake cure. So this is actually the theme of the session, is these things are what we think are going to ease our suffering. So I've put here the lost childhood message, the longing, what we're all longing for, and this is 8, 9, and 1, the heart wound, and then what we think is going to fix it. So find your action center, if you know what it is, and just see how much of this you relate to. I focus on the 3, the 6, and the 9 a lot because of Sandra Matry. She says that all types are a differentiation around the inner triangle, and they're struggling with the theme of the points of 9, 3, and 6. So that's why I'm kind of obsessed with the inner triangle. So look at this, I think. If you don't know your action style, I think this row is maybe quite helpful to see which of these 3 you most long for. And then see if this strategy to find it is the fake cure that you sometimes employ to try and get that thing. So I'd love to hear from any of the gut center types. When you read this, is it making sense to you that this is the wound and this is the fake cure? Maybe we can have a little conversation about one of the types here. So maybe, Joel, you shared a little bit. Maybe you can share. Terry, I'd like to actually see Terry, Joel, Carol. Who else is a gut type? If you can maybe raise your hands. Catherine, 9. So let's unmute all the gut types and have a little mini panel here of, let me invite Terry in. Does this ring true for you, Terry, that these things here are the things that you try and use as the cure for this kind of longing and suffering?
Thank you, Ingrid. Yeah. Very aware of that kind of judging, certainly. Making assessments, what's right, what's wrong, and it's the whole black and white thinking can very much be present. And then that anger that comes up from the gut, absolutely, that because things aren't right and they should be, and the shoulds and oughts and that whole language of the one. And the resentment is really quite a deep festering thing that can, people break the rules and get away with it, and why is that possible, and really it shouldn't be like that. And so yes, so I'm just taking this on board because to see that as a fake cure for the wound, I can. I'm slightly struggling. I did have to step outside the room for a moment. So the wound is the combination of the bottom three. Is that what you're?
Yeah, I'm saying that you've done the heart wounds with me before. The grief,
yes, I have.
Heart, and these are more the longing. So it's, the grief is almost related to the fact that it feels like this isn't the case. The grief of feeling that you aren't really welcome as you, your impulses aren't, your instincts need to be suppressed. The world is not a good place. So the grief, the heart wound of grief arises from the fact that these kinds of things are missing. And then the thing is to then, is that making sense, Terry, before I say the next step?
Yep.
Okay. So we try and use these things to fulfill these longings and to heal the heart wound. But then if I ask you, Terry, do either of these fake cures lead to a sense of goodness of the self and the world, like a settling into a sense of goodness?
Ultimately, it doesn't work. It's a pretense, no.
So this is the thing, is that we come clean with this lie. These things are what we believe somehow unconsciously. We didn't realize that we believed a lie was going to give us the thing that we most want. And that's the coming clean part. It's like, the thing that I'm doing is not going to get me what I most want. And that's the turning point. That's the turning point when we realize, oh shit, this thing is not going to get me what I most deeply long for. And it's a horrible shock, because then our whole ego strategy kind of collapses. And then we do experience this, I don't know if I put something here properly, the vulnerability of it. So if I'm not this ego, if I'm not this identity that I've fabricated to get that thing, then what? And then Sandra Matry talks about that as we need to fall through the thing that we most fear. So for sixes have to fall through the fact that they don't feel they have any inner ground, inner guidance. They have to see that they've been looking for it externally. It's never going to work. Oh my God, I've got nothing to stand on in myself. And falling through that desperate fear of groundlessness, you then discover what's real within yourself. And it's the same for every type. Like when 8s realize that dominating strategy doesn't work and they're going to have to give it up. So then what am I? What am I? I'm vulnerable. And being able to then touch into that and the fear that goes along with it. Like, you can see each time we experience even a little bit more joy and freedom of touching into that deeper self that will get us there. There's anxiety.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because we think, oh shit, this isn't real. We don't trust it yet. But as we develop it, how bizarre is this? It takes time to tolerate joy and understand that a new self is developing and that we can trust it. So that's what we start doing, is we start realizing that we can trust something within us far, far, far more deeply than we can trust our fake cure. And And that is not a small feat, actually, to trade the fake for the real, because we've had that fake and we've been hanging on to it for a freaking long time, our whole life. So let's, any other gut types want to reflect on this arrangement here, wound cure? Catherine, yes, please.
Okay, so I've had probably the worst 4 months of my entire life. But what I have seen has set me free. I've seen how I have ruminated, how I have resisted what my gut has been telling me. And when I gave into that resistance and saw my worth in that part of the divine, so I have to be worth something. And how right action, or just me actioning, has started to set me free and made me see this loop that I got myself into, and just hanging on to right action. So every day I would just show up, but how I saw that, how that has set me free, and made me start seeing a completely different self, has been, as hard as it's been, it's also, it's almost like an addiction now to do the right action, because it makes me feel so good.
Wow. So you are discovering that your presence matters, not by erasing.
No, it's by discovering, and it's by acknowledging, and it's by seeing that, hey, there's nothing not to like. There's worth. There's worth because I'm a human being. And yeah, so it's been, as hard as it's been, it's actually been absolutely amazing. And amazing also to see how, when you see your virtue and you know how to get to your virtue, like with right action, the universe just works with you.
Amazing. So it sounds like I get this image of you like discovering that you're standing in basic goodness. You're part of basic goodness. It's like being,
and at best I do get my shit together, because I've been blessed with a gift that needs to be put out there for the universe to shine. So best I get my shit together and start giving my gifts, instead of thinking that it's inferior or not wanted or useless, because it's actually insulting the universe. So
wow, that's amazing. And you see, when you say it, you're not even talking about I want to shine as an identity. And that's what people sometimes mistake about 9, is that the line to 3 is about getting all rah-rah. It's not. It's about knowing what you value and knowing that you are participating in the beauty of the universe, and you've got a part in that you have a role to play in the unfolding of the beauty and love of the universe. And at point 3, holy law, holy harmony, and holy hope is about knowing what is valuable and participating in it for real. So it sounds like you're tapping into that, like connecting with value, true value. Oh, that's beautiful. And I'm sorry the price is so high, but it is.
Yeah. No, but I was at a stage where I was resisting the price and in fact, the victim, why is it being so hard? And then I realized that I was making it hard by resisting. So just surrender, just let it come through and just do right action.
Yeah. Wow, that's a beautiful discovery. It's an amazing discovery. And you see that right action is not about, sometimes people think you have to give your nines a kick in the ass, and right action is like a, get your to-do list. No. Nines surrendering is part of right action, not resisting reality, realizing that you don't need to resist reality, that defense mechanism, the fog and the resistance. Procrastination is actually about taking things that are important and putting them aside, resisting them. And when one surrenders to the flow of what is, you don't need to procrastinate, because you know that you've got the capacity to deal with the stuff that's coming your way, and you just do it. So, and it sounds like you've connected with that movement center, the power of the movement center.
And it's hard, but you just it's harder to stay where I was now that I've got a glimpse of what right action is. So but I'm so aware that I go back if I don't action.
Yeah.
So it's just showing up.
Yeah.
Each day I can sort of show up in a bigger, better way.
Yeah. And you will encounter things that make you fold and self-erase again and again and again and again. And you're going to want to run to your default strategy, and it'll fail time and again. And so that goes on until the day we die. And that's the process of self-discovery. So, we can know this. And
so, just one last thing. The other thing that a nine does is it also disassociates.
Yeah.
And the irony in all of that I've seen, so I will disassociate and you withdraw. And I've discovered that that's where I go downhill, because I become alive when I'm connecting to people. But you thinking that that's where your safety is not to connect, because you don't have to talk about anything, you don't have to show anything, you don't have to voice anything, you don't have to connect, you just be numb.
Yeah.
But that is what was killing me.
Yeah. And that's so your fix was actually the poison that was going to take you down.
Yes.
So it's exactly like heroin. I mean, it's exactly. You want something that's going to soothe you. You want something that's going to make you feel better. And it does for maybe 10 minutes, but then you ruin your life. And it's the same dynamic. Is the fixation as the fake cure is going to take you deeper and deeper in the downward spiral.
Absolutely.
And now, I mean, if you think about the peace of mind and wholeness and harmony and stability that you're able to discover in presence, it's incomparable, because it's the true version.
Yeah. And she's shit hot.
So let's hear, we've got Carol, you're in 8, maybe you can say something, and then after you, I think we at 7:30, I want to go on to the heart center and get some input from some of the heart center types. It would be wonderful if we could just have another few hours and go through every type in depth, but unfortunately we're not going to get time for that. But Carol, can you speak to the 8, the fake cure of 8, and how it doesn't work, or whatever you want to share about what you're seeing here?
Well, I can share that the basic desire, longing, is to feel cared for and to ensure the survival of oneself. And I have to laugh because just this last few months, I moved across the country and I'm developing an off-grid homestead for my tribe. And my vengeance is, I'm going to say, what's the vengeance? The vengeance is against a culture, a world that is killing the earth, right? And that ties right into my dying heart wound, because I feel the pulse of the earth dying. So this whole is being reinforced by the climate trauma that's going on. And my passion, my lust, my forcefulness is like, I'm going to do it. God damn it. Just watch me. You know, I'm going to muscle right through this and make it happen. And okay, that's a fake cure, but it's got me pretty far along. I'm not so sure I'm going to give up on that one quite yet. I will give up on the lust because that leads to some very bad habits that help numb the pain of not belonging and not trusting. And I still struggle with that. I have to be honest. It's a really, really tough one. So I don't know. Does that give you a sense of what this 8 is dealing with?
Thank you for that. And that's really helpful to actually have the humility. Notice line 2, humility, that we don't want to give it up because it's got us somewhere. It's gotten us somewhere as a strategy, and it's definitely got its adaptive capabilities and gifts, but then we overdo it. And it's in that overdoing that we hit its limits and we encounter the false aspect of it. So yeah, I think that's a helpful corrective, is not to annihilate the fixation, to understand that there's an adaptive part to it, but generally, you know, in its addictive form, when we aren't exercising conscious choice about when and where, you know, to be forceful, when and where to get our 8 on, and, you know, to drive things, that it's going to result in some negative consequences for us. And Wendy Palmer speaks about finding that space where we're able to respond. And that would be, you know, in the middle of the Enneagram, where we're able to say, okay, right now, I need to bring in a bit of 3. Right now, I need to, you know, take that superhighway to wherever and access the things that are missing from ourselves. So, I mean, are there places in which you can find your way out of the defense mechanism of denial, or the domineering, I'm just going to soldier through, that allows the vulnerability to actually have connections and people around you who can care about you?
Oh yeah, that would be a great strategy. Maybe one day I'll get there. But yeah, no, it's a interesting journey for sure. I have to say that this sounds really weird, but I enact some of these things. I mean, my tribe is the physical world. It's not the people world. And my big learning journey is how can I relate as well with people as I do with the natural world.
Yeah.
Because the natural world I have learned to trust. How do I apply that to people?
Yeah.
And maybe I'll get there, maybe I won't, I don't know.
Yeah, and for 8, with the defense mechanism of denial, it's very difficult to believe in the goodness of anybody. That's part of the safety. And I imagine that, you know, gradually, you know, allowing people in. Just, and it's a calibrated process with 8s. I see it with my niece. She takes a long time to get to know people. She sees. She's not naive. But then when the bond is there, it's very profound. And I suppose it's, are you going to just allow somebody 2 millimeters and the next day maybe 2? So I don't know what that looks like for you, but yeah, letting somebody enjoy your nature space with you, I would imagine, or something like that. Don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. Thank you.
It would be good to discover with you what things have been moments of connection that feel safe for you. Even teeny ones. Can you think of one?
No, not right now. It's not coming. I think I'm done. Thank you.
Well, I hope that this space is a space where there's some safety for connection. And I think that you were very humble and vulnerable in sharing that with us. And that shows that there's some level of trust in this group of people and you don't even know us.
Well, thank you. And you're the other side of the world, so that makes it safer for me.
I know where you live. Thanks, Carol. So should we move on to the heart center? We could definitely stay here for the rest of the time together. So we've got 25 minutes. I'd like to have a little taste of the other centers. And you will get these slides, eh? They're going to be available to you so you can explore them on your own. It's just so nice to hear the stories. So let's hear again. So who's a heart type here? So Manya, you spoke just now. Who's a heart type who wants to help us here? Manya, are you the only heart person here? We don't have any 2s or 3s. Tabiso, what are you, 2, hey?
Oh, where is he now?
Yes, I'm a 2.
Okay, so let's ask you if this resonates for you, how in the 2 strategy, doing the 2 as the fake cure, does it actually lead to the thing that you're truly looking for? How does it work for you?
I think my heart wound is one of a shattered heart.
The heart wound for 2 is the severed heart, which is
Severed heart.
Yeah.
Yes, severed. Yeah, severed heart. Yeah, you're right.
Some love and severed out.
Yeah. I think my need is always to try and please other people so as to get affection. There is that tendency to try and do things for people without them asking. And I have found that sometimes people don't like it. Sometimes people appreciate it. Some people think one is manipulative because you are doing things because you want to get something. And most of the time I do it from, a point of view of saying, I just love doing it. It just makes me happy to be of service to other people.
So then you see that this, the pleasing people and trying to make them happy sounds like they don't like it. So you end up not getting what you truly longing for at all.
Yes.
And have you had moments when you've been able to tap into something deep and internal that gives you a sense of value, where you've been able to resist that urge to help people and to try and make them like you?
Yes, I have recently discovered that if you give people enough room to actually ask for what they want, you are able to meet their needs exactly as they want, not as you would have it done.
And what does it feel like for you to hold back on that compulsion to jump in and anticipate their needs and to just be with yourself.
What I've found quite amazing was the fact that sometimes people don't need the things that I intend doing. You know, at the end of the day, when I do it for them, without them asking, I tend to overdo it. But then when they ask me for things, it is things that I can easily do without any effort whatsoever.
So then the giving becomes effortless.
Yes.
If you completely forget about them and what they need and what they're asking for and whether or not they're asking, and you focus on your own body, self, feelings, thoughts, what does it feel like to be able to be in yourself without thinking about who you're going to help or how?
I do, unfortunately, feel a sense of selfishness when I focus on my needs, my own needs. Because I'm inclined to want to focus on other people's needs. So focusing on my needs is something that I struggle with.
So that's something, if you look at the kind of Enneagram recipe, I'm going to Chris Heuertz. He gives a recipe to overcome the lies. And his recipe is solitude for the heart center, silence for the head center, and stillness for the gut center. So these are his kind of antidotes to the lies and the programs, which is why I'm asking you so much about what is it for you to not be thinking about other people, to be able to be in solitude without focusing on the needs of others, because twos are so externally focused that they actually repress their own needs. So the growth journey for two is not so much like trying to do a self-care recipe, like let me, go for a walk or whatever it is, but it's allowing oneself to be alone and to realize how important that solitude is for your psycho-spiritual development. That actually that is your psycho-spiritual evolution is your number one priority, because out of that place you're able to be truly generative. So the line from 2 to 4 is holy origin. I mean, the four holy ideas, holy origin, that if you go down the line to 4, you're able to get the equanimity of 4, which is to tolerate your need to be liked and your need to help people, to be able to hold that and do nothing and notice the feelings going through you of, when are they going to ask me to help them? I just better wait, and then I'll be able to help them even better. All of that, like that whole program. And to be able to know that in that solitude, you're tapping into the true source of love, the real deal of love, the absolute wellspring of what Basil Mukandam calls golden love. The 2 is in touch with this thing called golden love. So the 1 is about this soft pink love, and the 2 is golden love. So for 2, they discover the golden love for themselves and for others, and that they aren't severed at all. They're deeply connected to the origin of golden love. So that's the Enneagram recipe. And for the others, you can see there's a pattern here. For the inner triangle, it's about engaging. So for 9s, you need to be in stillness, but it's an engagement with stillness. It's not a disconnection and a switching off. It's about how do I engage stillness so that I can actually feel my body, so that I can connect with myself, and action is able to then arise from that. So it's not about ruminating and sitting on the couch. It's about, I'm here. What am I feeling? What are the impulses of my instinctual center? And getting in touch with that power, because 9s have exactly the same amount of power as 8s. But, you know, the instinctual power in the gut center is the same for all of them. It's about how do we then get in touch with it and channel it and use it. And then for the heart center, this capacity for connection and heartfulness only comes from being able to find a relationship to solitude. So for 4, can I rest in solitude without thinking about myself, without, and I mean in terms of analyzing myself, trying to understand what's wrong with me, you know, is it my childhood, what's going on with that relationship? The 4s, all the emotional energy goes into their heads. So they're not actually in touch with their feelings. They're thinking. And it stops them from acting. So resting in solitude allows self-reconnection, where you're able to connect with the body. For 4s, big thing, connect with the body and go down the line to 1. So these are the recipes. I did a 3-week course on the Sacred Enneagram where we went deeply into this whole journey from here and how it lands up being, you know, these recommendations. It's a really lovely book. I don't subscribe to a lot of the kind of literal Christianity in it, but there are gems in it. So yeah, that's just to say that about the 2. Take notice of the recommendation of allow yourself to be in solitude. And what you're doing there is you're bringing in the antidote to the rejection triad of the 2, the 8, and the 5. So when you consent to solitude, you're actually allowing for the possibility of rejection. And you're doing the same thing as the 6, is I'm going to fall through the fear and discover that I do have an inner ground. With the 2 in solitude, you tolerate, you build the capacity to tolerate the fear of rejection. And you realize that your true value doesn't come from serving others. So that's the dynamic that it articulates. So in every case, building our capacity involves the capacity to sit with our frustration, to sit with our desire for things to be something other than what they are, which is in the frustration triad. The rejection triad, there are 3 different ways of fearing rejection, and there are 3 different ways of looking for attachment. So each of us is trying to come to terms with these underlying feelings, the dominant affect. So this is in addition to the heart wound. This is the dominant affect of the object relations. So this is a whole big story, but it's something, if you know the Enneagram a bit better, is notice how your actions are coming out of a place of a dynamic around frustration, rejection, or wanting attachment. So 3 is terrified to lose attachment and not be loved. So they manufacture something that people can love. They exchange real love for the lie of external approval. So each of them does it very differently. But these are the things that we're trying to develop the capacity to cope with. So let's just go back to the heart center. Let me see how much time we've got. Okay, we've only got another 10 minutes. But you get the picture around the pattern. There's the wound and the suffering, and then there's the thing we think is going to cure it and make us feel better. But actually what it does is it backfires every time. You can guarantee that thing you were speaking about, Tabiso, of serving people and trying to please them, what happens? You get rejected. They push you away. They feel like it's transactional. They pick up the fact that you're wanting to be liked and they push you away. So the true love, intimacy, and connection is going to come from something very different to the rest of the fake cure. So, yeah.
Okay, I'm supposed to come back now.
You're on mute.
Thanks. Sorry about that. I have no idea what happened. I was just asking Tabiso, when you reflect on that, what comes up for you?
Yeah, essentially reflecting on the issue of solitude as an antidote. I think it's something that I need to focus on, because I think it works. When I take my walks, I take my dog for a walk, and I'm alone out there, I feel more relaxed. I feel more with myself, my true self. And I come back a little energized to actually tackle the world again.
Beautiful. Yeah. Nature, I found so often with my two coachees that being alone in nature, walking, is something, and solitary creative things like painting, drawing, crafts, things like that, creative activities and solitude in nature. I found so often to speak about that as very restorative, and then reconnecting with the self. And self-reconnection is another word for healing, basically. In the NAM training I'm doing on trauma, it's all about how do we help people to reconnect with themselves and their true aliveness and joy. So thank you for that. Let's have a quick look at the head center, and then those who stay, we can talk a bit longer. But here we look at the patterns. So I've highlighted the 6 again, the wound and the longing for support, guidance, security, and a sense of safety is never, ever, ever going to be satisfied by attaching externally to something that you think is going to give you a true, deep sense of safety. It's only by falling through that fear into the discovery that it's within. It's within. I actually do have the capacity within myself as a 6 to live my life, to live, to be. And so that's the 6 giving up that fake cure of looking externally for security or answers. So any one of our head types want to reflect on what you're seeing here of how has your fake cure been revealed to be fake? Like Tabiso spoke to us about how his serving strategy to be liked ends up getting him rejected. What do you find? Any of the head types here want to comment?
Yes, I would love to.
What style do you deploy? I like to put it that way.
It's more around finding confirmation with others, and also finding support and the pillar of support outside me. Yes.
And how does that pan out?
In deep disappointment, because I then realized that there is no safety out there. And then I realized that probably if I maybe looked within and deployed whatever it is that I'm capable of, I would have come up with a better solution.
Yeah. And that is such a key word for 6, capable. I am capable. Look at the affirmations. I hope I included them here. Look at the affirmations for Enneagram 6. I am independent and capable. I have faith in myself, my talents, and my future. Look at how amazing these are. And all of us, you know, if you think of the core struggle of each of the corners, the 9, the 8, and the 1.
Oh, yeah. Yes, I can see them now.
You can see that all of us are actually
independent, capable. I have faith in myself, my talents, and my future. And that I meet difficulties with calmness and confidence. And then I find true authority within myself.
So what does it feel like to you when you say those things aloud? What happens to you when you say that?
I feel strong. I feel courageous. And a few years ago, I think it was about 10 or 12 years ago, I realized this whole thing about looking out there and having this sort of toxic relationship with authority and authority figures, and also hoping that people around me will provide.
Yeah.
I then realized that courage is a thing to sort of build and have the self-confidence that I am capable.
Ah, yes. And that, yeah, sorry, carry on, good news.
And then also one of the things that I think we discussed this at some point about some of the nuances that you find because of background. Yeah. I have also found out that this whole thing of being addicted to humility is one of the things that brings me down. Because in hiding from being arrogant, I ended up being less confident of myself.
Thank you. That is a very profound insight, eh? And when you think about that point 6, 1 and 2, compliance types, it's about, I'm just gonna be innocuous, because if I don't hurt you, you're not gonna hurt me. And I'm going to be sometimes ingratiating to authority figures, and I'm going to be subservient, and I'm going to be unthreatening, and and going down the line.
And be dutiful to others in the hope that they will return the favor.
Yeah. Yeah, good. It's a joke, isn't it? Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it is now, but it was not at earlier point.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you discover that the hard way, right? Is like you've been obsequious. I don't know if that's the right word. You've been servile. You've been a devotee. You've been loyal, and you realize it's not reciprocated, and that you better actually stand on your own 2 feet. So you learn courage the hard way. So I mean, you're saying it. So we've got 2 minutes. Those who want to stay, I want to stay for a little bit. I'm going to share these slides. And
that would be great.
So you'll see on the slides, people ask me, do I know when? I've actually got a course schedule. Can you believe it? For next year. Instead of just randomly thinking, maybe I should do this on Friday and then on Thursday. So if you are interested in them, you can take a look. But just for those of you who need to leave now, because the official end of this meeting is now, is there an affirmation that you want to say aloud to the group that really resonates for you? So maybe if there is anyone who needs to go right now, you can just raise your hand and have a go. Okay, good news. And Manya, you've got to check out. Let's hear from you. What's the thing here that you want to say? Let's hear from you, Manya.
Wow. So I am genuinely humbled. I mean, it's like I'm celebrating at the same time. You know, I've had some recent breakthroughs of actually really getting in touch with a more authentic self, you know.
Sorry,
that.
Anya, I just need to do a process check. The people who need to check out on the hour, and we've only got 2 minutes.
Okay, so I just want to.
Yeah, I just want to respect the people's time who need to go now. So I don't know if you can hold your point for a little bit for the people who've got urgency, or if you can say the affirmation thing so that people aren't stressing about getting off before they've had a chance.
Okay, great. So it's just that the authenticity that I'm getting in touch with is a lot more real in the presence. And I just want to affirm how this is supporting that.
Good. Is there one affirmation here that really...
Oh, in this block, yeah.
I'm
so sorry. I'm so sorry, Alice. The goodness of my life, my friends, and myself.
Beautiful. And that's a huge antidote to melancholy, is plugging into that sense of goodness. Wonderful. Thank you. So other people with their hands up, I want to give you a chance to say your affirmation before you rush off. Dinesh, I see you. You've got a little beautiful person. Hello. Hello.
This is River. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ingrid, and everybody. The affirmation that really resonates with me is, I'd like to say it in full, I now affirm that I am happiest when I am calm and centered. Yeah, lots of love and gratitude to you all.
Thanks, Dinesh. See you soon. Cool. Terry, you got to go? I didn't see the order of the hands. Please, put your camera on and wave furiously if you need to go. And we've got to hear. Okay, Terry.
Yeah, there's a few other things I ought to get to this evening. So thank you. It's a revisit on some things, a reminder about the heart wound. And yeah, I've been working on this a little while now, so some of it isn't new, but it's a good to be reminded and just to understand that automatic path that one takes. And just, yeah, that self-awareness is half the battle, isn't it? You see it, you're aware of it, you don't have to do the same as you've always done. So, yeah, thanks very much.
Is there an affirmation here that you can say boldly and we can imbibe the energy that you exude when you say it?
Oh, well, for one thing, as a one, I don't need to be right, which is a big statement.
And you don't need to comply with the instruction to choose one of my affirmations.
Sorry, bless you. Thank you, Ingrid.
I don't need to be right. I like that.
Okay. Yeah. Goodbye, everybody. Yeah. Cheers.
Lovely to see you again. Okay. Quite a few people needing to go. Leela, can we get your affirmation?
Yes, I now affirm that I'm excited about my future. Thank you for this evening.
I'm excited about your future because it involves me being part of it, hopefully.
Yeah, I think so.
Thanks, Leela.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Who wants to unmute themselves and go straight away if you need to drop off?
All right, I'll go for it.
Mm-hmm.
My affirmation is I find true authority within myself.
Wonderful.
Yes, and thank you very much for everybody, for the energy, and also to you, Ingrid.
Such a pleasure. I'm so glad you could make it.
Thank you.
Cheers, my friend.
Bye-bye.
Ciao. Okay, Audrey, Carol, Jill.
I'll go for it. Yeah, so for me, it's I meet difficulties with calmness and with confidence. Something that I'd like to remember and live as much as is possible. Yeah. Thank you. It was a really beautiful time spent together.
Thanks, Audrey. Thanks so much. Carol, and then Jill. So I can see with my screen as it is now.
Okay. I now affirm that I believe in people and care about their welfare. I said that out loud. There you go. So gratitude and blessings to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. We see right through you, by the way.
Of course you do.
I know you. I know what you really are. You're a total softie, and I love you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ciao. Oh, Jill, you want to go?
Yes, Ingrid, thanks so much. I feel so much more hopeful than when I started, when I joined the session. It wasn't a good day. So I feel really, calmer and much more hopeful. And I think my affirmation is going to be that I can trust my body.
Yeah, wonderful. That is a huge one. That is a huge one. Thank you.
Thank you, Ingrid. Bye.
Thanks so much. Rieta, hello, friend. You're on mute. You're still on mute. Rieta, you're on mute. I don't know whether you can hear us or not. Okay, let's let Rieta sort out her phone. And who would like to go next? Nolita, you're unmuted. Do you want to say something?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
What affirmation?
I'm still here.
What affirmation would you choose from here?
I find true authority within myself.
It's a great one. Hey, I love it. Okay, and Rieta, your hand is up, and now you are unmuted.
Yes. You can hear me now, Ingrid?
Yes.
Ah, great stuff. I was a bit late. I apologize. I was held up. But my affirmation is that despite a lot of turmoil in my life at the moment, I center myself, I trust the process, and I send out as much love and healing that is possible.
Thank you. Thank you. Trusting the process is a huge one, hey? I know what strategy you talk about is like not grasping, not anticipating, actually sinking into what's really happening.
Yes. And thanks for your wonderful facilitation and insights.
Yeah, thanks, Rita. It's lovely to see you.
Thank you.
No. Gabrielle?
Yes, thank you. I haven't said much, but I've learned a lot. And Nolita, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you for...
Yes.
And everyone else.
Thank you.
I think just from the initial 5 minutes discussion that I had with Lilam, I want to affirm that it's okay to express my feelings.
Wow, beautiful. That's so lovely. Just from that space, you discovered a little space of okayness. Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Who were you with?
Lila.
Ah, beautiful. Okay, thank you. Yeah, Lila, soft, lovely. Thanks, Gabrielle. Thanks for being here. It's cool to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
My hard one was... Yeah. Nolita, you were waving. Do you need to check out? You're going off.
No, I'm just waving to Gabriel. I haven't seen him in a long time. I loved his picture with a red shirt and in a posture of your dancer. I so loved that.
Wonderful. Great. And Leah, you've been super quiet. And let me see, I've got this thing is blocking my stuff.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hello. So thank you very much for the session. I choose and modify the last affirmation. I now affirm that I love others and am open for their love in return.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. Receptivity. Yeah. And for you, what for you are you taking away from the session? I know a lot of it won't be new because you've done a lot of this stuff already.
Well, everything is always new over and over again. And I had a very special day today, and it was extremely timely, and I took away mostly the idea of the wound and the fake cure. And I understood for myself, together with your theory and your wisdom and the other people's sharings and the one-on-one, those things compared with what happened to me today or what I've done today showed me that I really want to reduce uncertainty when I get triggered right away. And I just need to know the ending, because I feel like otherwise it might be dying of some sort. And so it gives me a lot to work through and to understand more. And I'll definitely check out the slides again and your recording. So thanks a lot.
So that thing of being able to maybe relinquish control.
Yeah, I don't really, it's really the Enneagram that has pointed the control issue out to me. I didn't see this in myself at all. And now I see it all the time, and it's a bit uncomfortable, but also it's really nice to know what I'm dealing with, and to recognize the strength as well, and to see this. It's actually very helpful, but maybe not helpful for the higher and deeper goals that I'm aspiring to now. So
exactly, that's it. Yeah, it is a bit of a shock to see that unmasking. That I relate so much to that. Like the 7, I used to think I was so enthusiastic, and then I realized I was anxious, and it's horrible. But yeah, thanks for that, Leah.
Thank you.
Appreciate. Yeah, and Catherine. You unmute if you are there. Yeah.
I don't want to talk.
Can't hear you nicely.
Yeah, and no, I don't want to talk.
Your sound is terrible. We can't hear you.
Yeah, I think I'm just gonna. Sometimes the speaker goes funny, so I think I'll just leave it for now.
Okay. Yeah, cool. So any last thoughts or questions before we sign off? I've put a slide in here about the virtues. So there's a bunch of stuff that you can look at and reflect on. But I think the very, very core theme is that what we think is the cure for our suffering is not the cure. And it actually causes the very thing that we're trying to avoid. So, yeah, there's stuff here for you to take away and look at. So I'm going to stop the share now. And yeah, so I think that'll bring our session more or less to a close. Anyone want to say anything? Audrey, your hand's up. Is that a fresh hand? No, your hand's down. You're on mute now.
I am meant to be gone. But I was just lingering on the sides because, I'm doing other stuff, but it was good to listen to everyone saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's, you know, for the longest time with the Enneagram theory, I've just ran over or glossed over the fixations and never gave them sufficient attention. And as always, you've been quite awesome in simplifying these things away from the theoretical, technical, you know, into something that is felt, lived, and so forth. And I must say, there's many instances in my life reflecting on that table you shared of the 6 that I've experienced, where I have many times when you know, the fix has been at the forefront, and other times when I let go of the fix and just trusted the universe. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Including dying, you know, having no safe ground or anything like that. And yeah, but anyway, people are remaining, I'm sure, to ask questions and whatever, so I don't want to hog their time.
That's a beautiful thing. That's it, when we face into those things. But the most important thing you're saying is about getting the Enneagram out of being a picture and a symbol and a technical system that we're trying to study. You know, it's like Kabbalah, algebra, astrology, whatever it is. You know, there are all these symbols and lines and we're trying to figure it out. The minute we can actually just push it away a bit and feel what's going on here, gut, heart, what is the quality of our awareness? That's what it's trying to get us to do, is be in our body, in our living experience right now, with the things we can touch, our actual feelings, our connection to another person, where we don't care anything about type. It's you and me. Here we are, living human beings, having this conversation. And what is that?
Yeah.
So
it's so needed.
It's just, I just find it so lovely to come into this experiential space and forget about the Enneagram for a bit.
Absolutely. So beautiful.
Special. So thanks everyone for being here. It was lovely to see you. I'm going to go and make sure that my daughter didn't eat Pringles and licorice for supper.